quite a few conversations around water. Remember, we told you all this, baby birds. I know that the guys watching now pretty much will be on board, but we told you what was going to happen. We showed you how your rates would be increasing if we didn't push through with Three Waters. And, you know, enough of you believe the racist rhetoric of, oh, Maori water, what are we going to do? That what you're doing is you're now paying for your decisions. And unfortunately, many of us who are supportive of that idea are paying for your decisions as well.
As many other factors. In my view, it's very clear that local government is no longer fit for purpose, that the structure isn't set right, but also that the rating system is unsustainable. Now, if you look at water, it's gone back to the councils now, and even if they pursue what the new government is doing, it's not going to give councils the savings that they need. And by dismissing completely every single one of the recommendations that came from that review and the feedback from local government, the only option that they have is rates. And now, you know, I've been travelling the country quietly talking to councils, just getting some feedback in a local area. But the one thing that stands out to me, Katie, was the bloke that I spoke to a couple of weeks ago who looked me in the eye and said, I've just had to sell my home, my family home, because we can no longer afford the rates. And, you know, if the minister thinks that that's an isolated incident, he's kidding himself, because the more I travel around, the more I'm hearing instances like this. I was in South Wairarapa yesterday talking to local businesses who are facing increases of $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a year. You know, they've got some concerns around council processes, but they absolutely accept at the same time that even if those processes were sorted, the increases would still be happening. 50%.
Just want to say it again. If you are a voter and you voted for the National Act New Zealand First taniwha, then this is what you voted for. This is what happens when you rip $14 billion of tax cuts and $3 billion of landlord rebates out of the pot of money. This is what happens. It has to be found elsewhere, and you are responsible for this. You, if you voted that way, are part of the reason that caused this. Now, for many people, it'll be like, oh, well, I can afford it. I'm a boomer. I've got 7 properties. You know, it's not a big deal. For others, and like, I'm going to be careful because we don't like typically accept anecdotal evidence from the other side. Kieran's just mentioned an anecdotal story. He does go on to talk about a wider feel for it. But this is contributing to people finding it tougher under this government, not easier. Got anything you want to say before we keep going, Chewy?
No. Pull the trigger on it.
All right.
Percent of the rates increases for many councils is for water, and around total expenditure for councils is around 83%. And the government is doing nothing about it. So, you know,
the government would say they are looking at new funding and financing options. You've talked there about the rating system being unsustainable as it is. What do you need to do? What needs to change?
Yep. Well, there needs to be a clear commitment to local government from any central government moving forward that they won't impose more jobs onto local councils without the funding to back that up. You know, you hear local councils talking about unfunded mandates, and they're absolutely right. Over successive governments, they've been asked to do more and more and more, but the only way in which they can pay for those is through rates. But at the same time, it needs to absolutely be overhauled, because if we don't give councils more tools, the only option they have is rates. And we can look at other ways of the PPPs and all the stuff that the government is signalling at. But at the end of the day, the core responsibility of councils is costing them a lot of money, and the only option they've got is to increase rates. So while we might find other funding alternatives for big infrastructure projects, the core functions of councils is going to increase.
There you go. Cheers, Chewy. You're jumping. I've had a chat about this already.
Yeah, like I think he's right. When you look at how rates affect local government, right? So I think wherever you guys are, wherever the chat lives around the country, you'll be aware that there is a local ratepayers group. And I challenge you to try and join that group and go to one of their meetings and look around the room who's part of that ratepayers group. Now, these guys want less rates. Every single ratepayers group wants less rates, and they're an organised block of voters. So local body politicians will listen to them. They will go to their meetings. They will talk to them before they run for office and that sort of thing. So these guys are setting the tone for the place that you live in. Now, we want to raise rates so we can redo the kids' playgrounds. No, don't want to do it. We want to get ahead of some like preemptive maintenance on the city's pipes. No, kick that can down the road. And this is what's been going on for decades. And this is why so many towns and cities around the country are finding all of this like deferred maintenance, the thing that's been put off because the ratepayers groups won't like it. It's all coming paid now. And this is why there's so many places out there. So many councils were looking at that the Three Waters changes and going, oh, thank fuck, here is the solution. But then many councillors in those councils were like, it's Māori taking all the water, and I don't like it. And Julian Batchelor's got some good ideas. And they fucked it because those same ratepayers group thought the same thing. Like, I talk around people that I know, and it's like, yeah, cities' pipes need doing. It's great to have kids' playgrounds. There was a part of the rates for council flats and that sort of thing, of putting the rent up for people that live in council flats. Now, I ticked that box that said, fucking hell no. Those people can't afford rates increases, but the rates go up. The rates go up because it is the only funding model that they have. But it affects everything. The fact that it's rates and nobody wants to be realistic about rates going up.
And they're the same people, of course, that get all up in arms when a government does something that they go, oh, I don't want to put that. We don't want to put that visa bill on our grandchildren. Why are we putting those costs on our grandkids? We don't want to leave those costs to our grandkids, which is exactly what they're doing with what you've just described.
The same generation that bought their house for 15 grand, and made millions out of it. The same generation that got free university education, the same generation that could stick out their hand to the government and quite happily take, and now they're in their twilight years and they're looking at their super and stuff like that, and they're going, oh, I don't want to pay any more rates. Fuck this city and everybody that lives in it apart from me.